Well, for more on what's happening in the DRC, CGTN's Chris Oicha is joining me now live from Kinshasa. Chris, let's start with what's happening in Beni, where the ADF is reported to have killed several people last night. What are you hearing?
Well, Beatrice, there's a lot of insecurity in Beni over the past couple of weeks. We have heard, like you mentioned, that 9 bodies were recovered in Oicha as the suspected members of the Allied Democratic Forces struck and killed people who were watching a football match. We've also heard from a civil society official in that area that there were other attacks in an area known as Mombasa, where more than 30 people were killed by the same group that the Allied Democratic Forces, but there has been no official communication from authorities in Kinshasa about this attack. But very many people there are very disappointed, calling on their government to do much more to protect them. There are some young men in that area who are calling, on the government to give them arms so that they can protect their people from these attacks that have been happening. And, it comes just about 2 weeks after members of the Allied Democratic Forces attacked people who were attending a night vigil in an area known as Komanda, and they killed about 43 of them. And so people there are very, very disappointed about what's happening. And they're also questioning the government about this joint military operation that the Congolese army has with Ugandan troops known as Operation Shujaa, about the effectiveness of this operation, because the ADF has continued killing people in their area. So there's a lot of tension, a lot of fear by the locals in Beni and areas of Ituri where the ADF has been operating. Beatrice?
And still on that conflict in the east, the U.S. is warning of resumption of fighting between M23, AFC allies and government forces, despite the Doha agreement on a ceasefire. Tell us more on the resumption of fighting in the North and South Kivu provinces.
Well, the fighting has been more intense in South Kivu province over the past week. We saw areas like Mwenga, Mulamba, Shabunda, and we are told that the M23 rebels are advancing towards the city of Uvira, which shares a border with Burundi. People have fled their homes, and these are people who have fled multiple times throughout this conflict that started in late 2021. So there's a lot of fear that the rebels will continue capturing more areas, which goes against what they signed in July 19th in Doha. They came up with a number of points. There were 7 points, and the major points were that they would stop any kind of military attacks, they resolve this conflict peacefully, and that there would be a permanent ceasefire between both sides. There will be no more attacks on the ground, air or sea. But we are seeing a violation of these attacks. Both sides have been accusing each other of attacking first, and the M23 said that they will not sit as lame ducks as they're being attacked by the Congolese forces. So we have seen an escalation of fighting, and people, are calling on the government in Kinshasa to sit down with the rebels and try and resolve this conflict peacefully. But so far, we are not seeing any of that happening. There's a stalemate in the talks, and there's a lot of tension in that area.
And do the residents of these regions feel there has been a ceasefire since that deal? Have they had the break they had hoped for when the Doha deal was signed?
Well, residents of Eastern DRC are just cautiously optimistic about, peace returning in their area after the United States signed a peace deal between DRC and Rwanda in June, and then the other one between M23 and the DRC government in July 19th. Some people have been raising hopes about a return of peace because they believe that the United States is a country that has a lot of influence. President Donald Trump is a leader who will put a lot of pressure to bear on both parties to respect what they signed. But we are seeing a deterioration of that, and people now have lost hope. People seem very despondent, calling on, seeking divine intervention. Others are calling on the government to try and, rein in their forces, because the DRC government has a very big challenge. They are working alongside a group of militias known as Wazalendo, and some of these people have had issues to do with indiscipline. They have not been taking orders that have been coming from the military command, and so they have been facing a lot of challenges trying to control them from continuing to attack positions of M23. M23 have also been retaliating, so we're waiting for more intervention by the international community, the United States and Qatar, to ensure that there is peace in that area. Beatrice?
And where do things stand now, Chris, as regards to the ceasefire processes, both in Qatar and the US-led process?
Well, first of all, with the US-led process, it seems to be going on track, because recently we saw representatives of the DRC government and a Rwandan government meeting in Washington, D.C. to form what's known as a joint oversight security mechanism. This is an organ that is supposed to follow up all the issues that they signed in Washington, D.C. on June 27th. And there are two major issues that are supposed to happen. One is that Rwandan forces are supposed to withdraw from eastern DRC, and what Rwanda calls the lifting of its defensive measures. And then, in return, the DRC government is supposed to start hunting down members of a militia known as the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda. This is a group that participated in the Rwandan genocide of 1994 that targeted Tutsis. So those are the two issues that are supposed to happen. There have been delays in the implementation, but officials are saying that it is on track, and they're hoping that both sides keep their end of the bargain. But regarding the talks in Doha, there's a stalemate. About 2 weeks ago, the M23 rebels said they will not send their members for the second round of talks until their prisoners have been released. We are told there are about 700 civilians and militants who are members of the M23 who are being held in Kinshasa and other parts of the country, and M23 wants them to be released in accordance with what they signed in Doha, the Declaration of Principles. The Congolese government hasn't released those people, and that has been a source of tension. Soon after that, we saw accusations, both sides trading accusations about deploying troops in eastern DRC, preparing for a full-scale war. And now we're seeing fighting that has resumed. So it's a very, very difficult situation, especially for the civilian population.